Now let's talk about how to save those documents. It's not enough to create the report. If we don't save the document, we're going to lose it. So let's talk about the different ways of saving a document. We'll talk about saving documents to the favorites folder. You might remember from one of the earlier modules that we covered, we talked about how to store documents, where we store documents. This is where we come in and save it and take advantage of those features that we learned earlier in the course. Not only do we want to save the document within the Web Intelligence environment as a Webby document, but we also want to save the document into other format types, namely Excel, PDF, and so on. That's an important part of it. And then, of course, we're going to want to print the documents as well, and we'll talk about that, show you basically how the basic printing options are set up for you as part of that process. And then we'll actually be going through a hands-on session where we'll get an opportunity to build our query and apply query filters of all different levels. So let's move ahead into the demo section at this point and continue on with the course. Let's go back in now. Let's remove the query filters and let's just leave the report as is and do a run query. And as you know, every time I run a query, it's going to take me back to the report viewer window where we'll be spending 95% more of our time. And there's the documents, as you see, that we've been working with throughout. And we really haven't concentrated much on this. That'll be coming up in Chapter 3. One thing now we need to talk about is how do I save that document? We haven't touched on saving at all, and I've made an issue of how important it is to save regularly. Over on the left side, on the File tab, there's New, Open, and there's a Save. We're going to click down there. We're going to do a save by selecting the Save feature over here on the left side. When the Save window, I select the Save window, a Save Document pop-up window shows up, as you can see right here in the middle. And what it shows you is My Favorites in Public. Now, we want to be very careful. I warned you about staying away from public folders. If there's a departmental one that's available to you and you have read-write access to it, you could save it there. But I gave you a best practices warning. Always save it under My Favorites first so you have your own personal protected copy, and then turn around and go saving it under the public folder in a particular departmental one that you may have, and you're happy that way. You have it both places. So let's click the Webby Basic folder here, and I'll call this one my query panel, query example number 1, just to save it. I will hit the save button for it. And the document is now saved. And if I were to go back to My Favorites, I would, of course, if I leave, I would close it all out. I don't want to do that at this point. But if I were to go back out and look at my Favorites folder under the Web Intelligence Basic, and we will do that later on, you'd see that the Webby document is now stored out there. And notice on my tab up on top, it says Query Example 1. Okay? Because I can't have multiples open at the same time. This is the one that I'm currently on, and that's the name of it. From here on out, as I make changes, all I got to do is click the disk button like you see right there, and it automatically does a blind save for me. This is so important. We're dealing with a browser-based product. Like any browser, lots of things can happen, lots of things can go wrong. Do yourself a favor. When you very first time you run a report, click the disk, do a save, give it a name in your My Favorites in the subfolder, and every once in a while, hit the disk button. Now, you've got your automatic backups, auto recovery of your own, and you don't have to rely on that little tilde file and wondering if you timed out where it had last done a write. So do yourself a favor, do regular saves to your documents. Now that I've done that, let's show you a couple other features. I can also do a save as, and this gets a little tricky. So in your book, you might want to make some notes on it. It assumes when I did a save as, I'm also saving it as a Webby document. However, in the window in the middle, should I designate a different place, for example, My Documents, which is the typical one you will do, by selecting My Documents, what it assumes is I'm not saving it as a Webby document anymore, but as some other type of document. And on the bottom, you'll notice all of a sudden there's a file type window that shows up, and if you click the down arrow, look at all the options. I can save it as PDF, as Excel, as a text file, all available to me as viable options. Okay? Maybe I want to save it as an Excel file. It gives me the ability, something that's new in version 4 that did not exist in the prior versions, is that I can select which report tabs. If I have more than one tab, I can select all of them, or I can just select the one tab. I only have one, so it's all one and the same there. I can do a save. It's now saved that document in my Favorites folder. I can then go back, or Documents folder. I can do another save as a second time. Click My Documents again. And this time, instead of saving it as an Excel file, we'll save it as Adobe. And I'll leave it the same name as well. And now it's saved it. So now I've taken advantage of the different types of format types that I can save it under, and that's all I had to do to deliver it. Okay? It made it very, very easy for me to do that. All right. One other thing that closes out this particular chapter is if we click the print button, you'll see there's a little print window that comes up and it gives your basic typical print type functionality that you see with most products in terms of how you want it laid out and so on. So that's available to you as well, and there's a sample of that one in our materials as well that show you exactly how the print functionality works. That completes the section on saving documents. Now let's move into our next module.